Okay, well, welcome back everybody. The module this week is going to focus on career opportunities available to students with 2-year technical degrees in natural resources. This is not designed to be an exhaustive list. One of the exciting things about forestry is the number of career options that are available. If you'd like information regarding a particular field that I don't cover here, just be sure to ask about that on the discussion board. I'd be happy to try to answer your question. Also, if you would like some more detail regarding one of the fields presented, just let me know. What's included here is going to be forest technician focused. So there are several federal agencies that hire forest technicians to perform in a variety of roles. We'll talk about the specific job tasks and necessary skills later in the lecture, but keep in mind that many of the skills that you have the opportunity to develop in a program like ours here at HCC are applicable to a variety of jobs. The U.S. Forest Service, under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, offers a variety of employment opportunities to individuals with a technical forestry degree, focusing on the multiple use management of national forest land. The Bureau of Land Management, the National Park Service, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which are all under the U.S. Department of the Interior, offer employment to forest technicians as well. Though the mission of each agency is different, several skills are applicable to all. The ability to take accurate ecological measurements in the field, the ability to identify vegetation, the ability to work comfortably alone in a remote setting, as well as the ability to work comfortably and productively in a group. These are all skills that overlap regardless of the agency you work for. At the state level, the North Carolina Forest Service, the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, and North Carolina State Parks are frequent employers of our students. In general, the state forestry agencies in the South and western U.S. are bigger employers than those state agencies in the northeastern states and to some extent the lake states. As we'll see in a moment, the North Carolina Forest Service, as a state agency, provides forestry assistance to private landowners, and they also manage state forest land. The Wildlife Resources Commission provides some services to private landowners, but their primary role is managing state-designated game lands and fish hatcheries. North Carolina State Parks personnel manage state park land with a fundamentally different mission than the North Carolina Forest Service or the Wildlife Resource Commission. The North Carolina Forest Service has employed many of our graduates and continues to employ many of our graduates, so I thought it would make sense to spend a little bit of time here going over that agency specifically. The structure of the North Carolina Forest Service is also similar to other forestry agencies within the southeastern United States, so it offers a good model of the type of work that such an agency performs. As you can see from the slide, the agency is broken down into 3 regions, roughly corresponding to the coastal plain, the Piedmont, and the mountains. Within each region there are several districts, and within each district are county offices. Each county has at least one county ranger. Many have a county ranger and an assistant county ranger. Down east, in the coastal plain and a lot of the Piedmont, equipment operators are often assigned to counties given the amount of tree planting and machine-based fire control work that's performed. Here in the mountains, where there's often less tree planting and less machine-based fire control work, there are far fewer equipment operator positions. But some of the counties in the mountains hire seasonal smoke chasers, which is essentially a fire control position, and they also hire for fire control hand crew positions, and those are generally seasonal, temporary positions. Throughout the state, county rangers are the first point of contact for landowners within that particular county for all sorts of things. Landowners contact county rangers for management planning assistance. They are the first contact for fire control, prescribed fire management, and tree planting. They also inspect logging operations, which is a really important job. They inspect jobs within their county to ensure that those logging operations are in compliance with state water quality regulations. County ranger, assistant county ranger, smoke chaser, and equipment operator positions all require a 2-year technical degree. There are other positions within the Forest Service that require a 4-year degree, like service foresters and district foresters and some of the more specialized positions. Alright, well, one of the fun things about the world of forestry is that there are a variety of private sector employment opportunities as well. There are some companies that own and manage forest land in addition to owning wood processing facilities. Weyerhaeuser is North America's largest private landowner, in addition to being one of the world's most prolific wood products manufacturers. Resolute Forest Products is primarily a pulp and paper manufacturer that manages a substantial amount of what they call crown land or public land in Canada. But they also procure wood from private landowners to support mill operations throughout the southeastern United States. Fountains Forestry, a company that I used to work for in Vermont, is one of the largest forestry consulting companies in the eastern United States. So they own no land directly, but provide forest management and consulting services to both industrial scale, large scale landowners, and small scale sort of family wood landowners. Campbell is referred to as a timber investment organization. On behalf of private clients, they strategically invest in timberland to maximize the financial return for their investors. There are opportunities for forest technicians throughout the industry, and we're going to talk about some specific job descriptions here in a moment. This slide here shows some of our students spending time in the woods with a Procurement Forester from Columbia Forest Products on a recently harvested property in western North Carolina. At their mill in Old Fort, Columbia Forest Products produces high-grade plywood. Procurement Foresters purchase standing timber from private landowners on behalf of the mill. They mark the trees to be harvested based on a silviculture prescription and manage the logging job to completion. We've had several students recently find work as procurement foresters and or wood buyers for local sawmills. We've also had students work in Sawmill Operations in a variety of roles as log graders, saw filers, and equipment operators, and sawyers. Though the skills required for these positions are really kind of just tangentially related to those required for field-based forestry positions. We do expose our students to mill operations and help them make employment contacts with local mills if that is the type of employment that they're hoping to find. As I mentioned earlier, the breadth of job opportunities in the forestry world is pretty extensive. It helps if you can narrow down the type of work you hope to do as well as the region of the country you would like to work in. I have included here three relatively broad employment categories for which our students tend to show the most interest. Technical field forestry work, wildland firefighting, and natural resource-based law enforcement. We're going to explore all three of these in depth here shortly. We're also going to touch briefly on some additional career paths available like logging, arboriculture, and forestry resource support that students have shown interest in the past as well. So first we'll look at some aspects of technical forestry work. The image here on the slide is of a field forester I used to work with in New England, marking trees to be harvested during a logging operation or prior to a logging operation, with the objective of improving the overall timber quality throughout the stand. As a field forester or forest technician, you have the opportunity to become involved in all phases of forest land management. Regardless of the management objective towards which you are working, the process of forest management begins with a written management plan. Objectives can vary pretty widely. The creation of wildlife habitat components and timber production are really common objectives, but there are several other possibilities out there as well. Regardless, the development and implementation of an ecologically sound plan requires data to be collected through a systematic forest inventory. A forest inventory, you can think of it as a systematic, quantitative, and qualitative assessment of tree species, tree size, tree density, as well as an assessment of the ecological and financial value of the area. Once that data is collected, a plan can be developed. The plan may involve harvesting trees, in which case those trees need to be identified and marked in the field. Property boundaries often need to be reestablished based on survey and deed research. All of these tasks require individuals who are comfortable working independently for extended periods of time, often in very remote locations and sometimes adverse weather conditions. Every day is an adventure, and it's a lot of fun.